So today's video is going to be what would happen if Emily and Stephanie joined Elite and stayed there, and also what would happen if Miss Angela was successful in becoming a partner in the next step. We're going to start with Emily and Stephanie and what would happen if they joined Elite and stayed there. But they did eventually both come back, like they did sort of go there in the show. What would happen is they would stay for the whole of season 1. TNS would have to replace them. They would replace them in season 1 episode 18, which they did do in that episode, replace them. They would be replaced in the same episode that they auditioned for Elite, which was season 1 episode 18, because the next step, as Miss Gates said in the episode, we can't go to regionals with 8 people, we need 10. They would pull 2 people up from B Troop, and also they'd be in a bid to find dancers to replace them, and hopefully better dancers than Emily and Stephanie. Michelle would run the auditions because she's dance captain. Kate and Chris would make the final decision. Beth would want to be on A Troop because of James, and also she would have a couple of other reasons as well, like she didn't just say that, she'd also say that she's kind of loud and crazy and likes to express that in her dancing, as well as James. Stephanie in this episode wouldn't come back, even though on the show she did come back. Giselle would be moved up because she's so good. Beth would be moved up, and when Daniel gets injured, Sarah would move up. Charlie in season 1 episode 20 would still happen because James would tell Riley, "I love you." Riley would ask him, "Do you actually love me or do you love Beth more?" James would say, "Riley, of course I love you, it's you and not Beth." So both groups would be rehearsing for regionals. At regionals, right before the final dance, Beth would say to James, "I love you." They would ask James, Riley would ask James, "What did Beth say to you?" And James would say, "We're going to do well in the final dance and stand a good chance of winning," because he wouldn't want to psych her out. Though Eldon wouldn't break up with Emily till after regionals, and Michelle would still be dance captain because Emily's gone. Michelle and Emily can't become co-captains. Michelle would struggle when the Seeds dance battle because she does struggle because she's never done a dance battle before. And she even says that on the show that she's never done a dance battle before. James would say, "We'll beat Seeds at regionals, don't get bombed about the dance battle." Alden would, after James has said what he said, he would say, "Michelle, we need to talk after rehearsal because there is something I need to address," and he would talk to her and say about how she's been avoiding duet practice and how her leadership skills do need to improve, and she is confident enough to lead the team. She just needs to be sure that to know herself she can do it, because Emily's not there, so it's not like she can actually not be the leader because Emily's not there. Emily and Stephanie have both gone, so Emily and Stephanie would start off struggling, finding it hard to make friends and dancing in the back row. Emily and Alden would have that chat like they did in the episode, and Emily would step up a game. Stephanie would do the same, and they'd both move up to the middle row and then eventually move to the front row. And there'd be no chance of them coming back. Amanda would act like she doesn't want them to fail, and they both know they're not going to fail, so they think, who needs to be friends with Amanda when there's so many other people and we have each other? So at regionals, Elite would pass the line. Amanda would say to the next step in, particularly to Michelle, because Michelle auditioned for Elite but never went. And then when Michelle is doing a rehearsal, Amanda would walk through it and make comments about their costumes. Emily and Stephanie wouldn't say anything because they don't want to stand up to Amanda. They don't really want to say it and they don't know what to do. Emily wouldn't say anything to Riley when her hairpiece falls out and the next step loses. Michelle would say it to Ryan. James would mention the wildcard, so neither Emily nor Stephanie would hint on coming back. Michelle and Eldon would want to be together. Eldon would break up with Emily after regionals, but instead Emily called Eldon off the stage and forced him to tell her, so Emily and Eldon would break up. Elite would do their routine, which would be a clean routine as usual. The next step would do their routine, and while they were waiting for the results, Eldon would tell Michelle how he told Emily about them being together, and he would explain to Michelle he did want to do it after regionals, but Emily forced him. Amanda would come to the next step for the challenge, nor Emily and Stephanie would come back. Michelle would be guaranteed spot on the team. There'd be 12 dancers, basically the same team, apart from Emily would not be there, but instead of Emily it'd be Rochelle because she's proved she's good enough to make A Troop. Beth and Charlie would have a duet. Tiffany would still not make it and she'd decide not to go down to B Troop, she'd just leave. The plot carries on in season 2 where Amanda would just be getting away with doing what is happening because nobody would be stopping her. She would put the Nationals costumes in the bin. Wes would find them because the team would search for them. Amanda would still steal the money and Chloe would have the money in her bag and they'd find the key in Amanda's bag, so Amanda leaves the team. They get Michelle back because Michelle still leaves because of the whole Eldon Hunter dance battle drama. James would convince her to come back with the flash mob. So the next step would have 10 dancers to go to Nationals because Daniel leaves. At Nationals, Stephanie and Emily would be in the front row. Amanda finds out Lucianne and Tess sabotage Michelle. Amanda would ask, "Do you not believe in me?" She'd perform and she'd prove that they can trust her and that they should trust her to win no matter what. Emily's injury doesn't happen because Elite get eliminated in the 4th round. Amanda doesn't help the next step because they have all dancers. The next step would still win regionals. In season 3, Amanda redeems herself to get back on A Troop. Like, she basically decides she's going to leave Elite and join the next step, and Daniel and Emily and Stephanie all try out for the internationals team. People are annoyed that Daniel is now on Elite. Stephanie and Emily would both win their battles and they'd make it onto A Troop, so they're both back on A Troop. Same plot apart from Emily is on the team a bit. Words. That's it for Emily and Stephanie. Now, next we're going to move on to what would happen if Miss Angela successfully became a partner on the next step. Miss Angela wouldn't change the studio, be her teaching, which would be the same as it is in the episode that people don't like. There would be no showing the pictures to Rochelle. Rochelle would hear Miss Andrew and Miss Kate having a conversation and she finds out Miss Andrew is going to become a partner in the next step. Rochelle would say, "We're going to share this terrible dance to Miss Kate, like they're going to show it." Then she has no choice but to not have Miss Angela become a partner. When Miss Andrew and Miss Kate walk in, Rochelle says, "Do you want to see this routine Miss Angela's choreographed for regionals?" And they know Miss Kate's not going to like it because nobody's happy. There's too many winks and flash and it's not what Miss Kate likes. And also it's a sloppy dance, which Miss Kate does not like a sloppy dance. So goes, "I'm so excited for you to see this routine." So they do the routine and they can tell Miss Kate doesn't like it. Miss Angela says there is still a long way to go and we're still in the stage of cleaning the choreography. Miss Kate would say, "Fine, fair enough. I'm excited to see this routine when it's all finished and perfectly polished and all clean and ready to go." they have the meeting, everything's fine, all the contracts and that are signed, so just like they do in the episode, or were going to do in the episode, I don't know. A-Shoot would be thinking what to do because they're not sure what to do. Next episode, the episode where Emily and Michelle are heads and Piper returns and the line placements are announced. That wouldn't happen because Miss Angela's still in charge. So Angela would get everyone to audition for their line placements. Everyone would wonder what is the difference in auditioning for their line placements, because Lily's obviously going to be front and centre. Rochelle would do a 60-second solo because she feels like her hip is okay and that she's not been going as full out, so her hip can manage it. Like, she's really working on just taking care of it so it's good in rehearsals and when it needs to be good, like for rehearsals. The line placements would be on the back line: Ozzy, Henry, Winnie. Middle line is Kenzie, Finn, Summer, Amy, Noah, Jackie. And front line, Rochelle, Kingston and Lily. Lily and Kingston would have some interaction this season to draw onto the fact they might get together in the next season. The girls' line placement problem would just be Amy and Jackie. Summer would come in and say, the line placements are not that bad, at least we're not on the back row. They would slam their lockers and they wouldn't want to talk to Summer. The team would be fine with Winnie because she's in what they think is the right place. Like, she's just joined A-Troop and she's on the back line, so it makes sense. Lily would do the convention solo. There'd be no auditions. Rochelle would be annoyed about it. Rochelle would go and vent to Emily and Michelle about how Lily has the convention solo. They didn't do auditions. The line placements are all wrong. And they want them to come back to the next step, so the next step goes back to the way it was. Michelle comes up with a plan where they do the dance. Michelle and Emily film it and they send it to Miss Kate to prove Miss Angela's dance is still not up to scratch. So they film the dance. Piper doesn't want to be noticed, but she is dancing the choreo. Did it to Miss Kate. Miss Angela notices Piper dancing the choreography. It would be a big cliffhanger on what's going to happen. Miss Kate would be not very happy with the dance. And also she'd be ready to leave for the reality show, so she's got to get everything all organised. She would not be happy because she would say, why is Rochelle? Why is Rochelle not showing her best? Yeah, she's in the front line. Like, why are you not having her show her best when she's in the front line? Why is Noah on the second line when he's so good? He should be on the front line with Rochelle. And why is Lily on the front when she's not as technically able as a lot of the other dancers? Also, why is Winnie dancing instead of Piper? Kate would have a meeting and Lily would talk about how she feels like it's not the right place for Miss Angela, so they leave. And then Emily and Michelle come back. And then everything's normal from there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you in another video. Bye.